I exposed the lies they told to keep me down and ended up being the real winner. My mom's nails dug into my forearm hard enough to sting through my dress sleeve as she leaned in, smiling for the crowd while her voice came out through her teeth. "Don't," she whispered. The word landed like a slap, soft but sharp, and I felt the whole backyard tilt. Fairy lights above us, the smell of barbecue and citronella, the clink of glasses, the low hum of people enjoying themselves. Like all of it was suddenly just a stage set that could collapse if I moved wrong. My aunt had the microphone. My cousin's playlist was still running, that upbeat summer song people always dance to, and the kids were chasing each other between folding chairs, oblivious. My brother Dean stood near the dessert table with his arm around his wife, Tessa, looking relaxed in that smug way he gets when he thinks he's already won. Then Aunt Colleen lifted the mic, beamed at everyone, and said, "Before we cut the cake, we just want to say a few words about family, and about how proud we are of Dean for stepping up, and how some of us have finally learned that you can't always take the easy way out." Her eyes slid to me like a blade. People laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. My mom's grip tightened. My tongue tasted like metal, like I'd bitten it without realizing. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Dean raised his glass and said loud enough for everyone, "To accountability," and the whole thing snapped into focus. They weren't toasting the family. They were toasting my humiliation. I didn't plan to speak. I told myself I was coming for Grandma's birthday, not a war. I'd promised myself, sitting in my car before I walked through the gate, that I'd smile, give Grandma her present, eat cake, and leave before the old story started. But the moment Dean said accountability and the crowd laughed again, and my aunt started listing my phases like she was reciting a weather report. Remember when she was going to be a nurse? And then she just disappeared. Remember the business idea and the mental health break? Bless her heart. Something hot and clean cut through the fear. My mom hissed, "If you embarrass us, you will regret it." And that's when my hands stopped shaking. I looked at the microphone in my aunt's hand and realized the simplest truth. They had chosen a public stage. They had chosen to tell their version in front of witnesses. So I could either swallow it again, like I always had, or I could finally tell mine while everyone was forced to listen. It was a Tuesday night, 8 months ago, when I understood that the lies weren't just family gossip anymore. They were a tool, and they were being used on purpose to keep me small. I was sitting on my apartment floor with my laptop open and my back against the couch, still in work pants, still in my mascara from that morning because I hadn't had the energy to wash my face. My phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Bree. "I feel gross, but you need to see this." Then she sent me a screenshot from a family group chat I wasn't in. The chat name was something cheerful like Family Updates 2 Hearts, and the messages were not cheerful. "My mom, don't tell her about Grandma's accounts. She'll try to manipulate her. Aunt Colleen, she'll probably beg for money again. She's always got a crisis. Dean, if she shows up, don't let her be alone with Nana. She'll lie. Someone else. Is she even working? I heard she got fired." And then my mom again. She quit another job. She can't handle anything. Don't encourage her. I stared at that screenshot so long my eyes started to blur. Not because I was surprised. This family has always loved a story, and I've always been the easiest character to cast as the screw-up, but because of the timing. I hadn't asked them for money. I hadn't spoken to them in months. I had, in fact, just finished my first quarter a new job that I was doing well at, and I hadn't told them because I didn't want it twisted into something else. The only crisis I'd had recently was an infected tooth that I paid for myself, quietly, like everything else. And Grandma's accounts? I didn't even know what that meant. The implication was clear, though. There was money, and they were already painting me as a threat. That was the night I stopped thinking of their lies as annoying and started thinking of them as strategy. Because this pattern didn't start with money. It started when I was 15 and Dean was 17. And he was the kind of teenager who could do something wrong and somehow make it charming. He'd skip school and teachers would say, "He's got potential." I get a detention for being late once, and suddenly I was irresponsible. Well, I got into a good uni program. Dean joked at dinner, "Look at you, finally doing something," and everyone laughed like it was affectionate. When Dean dropped out of his apprenticeship 3 months in, Dad said he's finding his path. Then my first year of uni happened. I was juggling classes, shifts, tried to be the kid who proved everyone wrong, and I burnt out hard. Like not I'm tired burnout. Like panic attacks in a bathroom stall burnout. Like lying awake at 3 a.m. convinced I was dying burnout. I tried to explain it once, gently, to my parents. My mom said, everyone gets stressed. My dad said, you're too sensitive. Dean told me, maybe you're just not cut out for it. I took a semester off. I got help. I went back. That should have been the story. Kid struggles, kid adapts, kid grows. In my family, it became, she quit. And once a lie becomes your label, everything gets filtered through it. If I took time off work because I was sick, it was she can't keep a job. If I didn't come to a family dinner, it was she's avoiding responsibility. If I did come, it was she's here to get something. Meanwhile, Dean started collecting praise for breathing. He got married. He bought a house, mostly because my parents helped, which they never say out loud. He got a job through my uncle. He stayed afloat because my family built a net under him and then called it hard work. I didn't have a net. I had one thing. I was good at what I did when I was allowed to do it in peace. That's what they never understood. I'm not lazy. I'm not flaky. I'm just not built for chaos dressed up as family. Fast forward to this year. I finally landed a role at a mid-sized company doing operations coordination. Unsexy title, very real work. Scheduling, vendor management, process improvements, the kind of job where you're invisible when it's going well and blamed when it's not. I loved it. I loved having clear expectations. I loved setting a plan and watching it work. I loved being paid on time without emotional strings attached. I didn't tell my family at first. I told Bree, because she's the one cousin who sees me as a person. I told my best friend. I told my therapist. I did not tell my mom, because every time I've shared good news, she's either downplayed it or found a way to make it about how I finally did something right. Then, one afternoon, I got an email from HR. We've received a request for an employment reference. The request wasn't from my previous manager. It was from my Aunt Colleen. I laughed at first, like actually laughed out loud, because it felt so absurd. Then I got cold. Why would my aunt be contacting my employer? Unless she'd been telling people I was unemployed. Unless she wanted to confirm the lie. Unless she wanted to sabotage me if the truth didn't match the story. I forwarded the email to my manager, explained briefly, and he replied with a simple, "We won't respond. Please document everything." That phrase, document everything, hit me like permission. I'd spent my whole life trying to be easy, so I wouldn't give them more reasons to talk. But easy doesn't protect you from people who need you to be the villain. So I started saving everything. Every text from my mom that implied I was unreliable. Every missed call followed by a call me now message. Every family invitation that came with a passive-aggressive jab. I saved it, not because I wanted to build a case like a courtroom drama, but because I needed something solid when they tried to rewrite reality again. I needed anchors. And then I learned what grandma's accounts meant. My grandma, Nana Jo, is 81 and sharp as a tack when she wants to be. She's also tired. She forgets small things. She repeats stories. And my mom has been helping her more and more, which in our family is always a sentence that ends badly. Bree called me one night and said quietly, they moved Nana's savings. Dean was bragging that the inheritance is finally organized. I don't think Nana knows. My stomach did this slow sink. Not because I'm some greedy monster who wants Nana's money. Nana could donate every cent to a cat sanctuary and I'd clap, but because the way they talked about it was wrong. Like it already belonged to them. Like Nana was a formality. So I drove to Nana's place the next day, alone. I brought groceries as an excuse, because in my family you're only allowed to show love if you can disguise it as usefulness. Nana let me in, hugged me hard, and said, "Oh, darling, you look thin." She always says that. Then she made tea, and we sat at her kitchen table with the afternoon sun on the linoleum. I didn't charge in accusing anyone. I just asked, "Nana, can I ask you something? Do you feel good about how your finances are being handled?" Nana blinked, surprised. "Your mother helps," she said. She said it's all taken care of. "Do you know what's been moved?" I asked gently. Do you see your statements? Nana frowned, and I watched the confusion flicker. Your mother said the bank doesn't send paper anymore. That was the moment my chest tightened, because Nana has always gotten paper statements. She likes paper. She keeps everything in labeled envelopes. That's who she is. So we opened her little drawer of bank mail together. It was emptier than it should have been. Nana's hands shook slightly as she rifled through it. That's odd, she murmured. I didn't tell her Bree's suspicions. I didn't say inheritance. I said, how about we call the bank together and make sure everything is set the way you want it? Nana hesitated, because she trusts my mom, because my mom has trained everyone to treat questions as insults. But then she nodded. The bank confirmed what I already suspected. Account settings had been changed. Statements redirected to an email Nana didn't recognize. A trusted contact updated. A new joint account added. Nana's face drained of color. I didn't approve that, she whispered, and I felt this wave of fury rise in me, so fast my hands went numb. I asked the bank rep, calmly, can you tell us the date and method of those changes? And she did. In person. Branch. My mom's suburb. 2 weeks earlier. Nana looked at me like she was suddenly seeing the shape of a thing she didn't want to name. Your mother wouldn't, she said automatically, like a prayer. I didn't argue. I just said, let's fix it. We did. We changed everything back. We updated Nana's contact information. Nana asked, voice small, if she could add me as a trusted contact too. I said yes. Then Nana sat back in her chair, staring at the wall, and whispered, I feel stupid. You're not, I said, and my throat tightened. You're trusting. That's not stupid. They took advantage. Nana went very quiet and then said, your mom says you're unstable. There it was. The lie. The one they used to discredit me before I even opened my mouth. I felt my stomach twist. Nana reached across the table and put her hand over mine. Are you unstable, darling? I forced myself to breathe. No, I said. I'm tired of being treated like I'm crazy whenever I ask a question. Nana nodded slowly, and something like grief passed over her face. I think, she said, your mother tells herself stories. I almost laughed and cried at the same time, because yes, that's exactly it. My family tells stories and then punishes you for not living inside them. So when my mom and Dean planned Nana's birthday party at my parents' place and invited half the neighborhood and a handful of important people, clients of my dad's, friends of my brother's, anyone who could be impressed, I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a stage. And stages are where my family likes to perform me into whatever shape they need. I almost didn't go. Bree begged me to. If you don't show up, she said, they'll say it proves everything. That's the trap, right? If you show up, they poke you until you react and then call you dramatic. If you don't show up, they call you selfish and unstable. There's no winning unless you stop playing. But I went, because Nana asked me to. She called me herself and said, I want you there. You make me feel sane. She actually said that. Nana, who never talks like that. So I walked into that backyard with a present for Nana and a folder in my bag that felt heavier than paper should feel. I didn't want to use it. I wanted to eat cake and leave. And then my aunt picked up a microphone and told everyone I was a cautionary tale. So I stepped forward, reached out, and said, can I have the mic? My aunt's smile froze. She looked at my mom like she needed permission. My mom's eyes went wide, warning. No, she mouthed. I kept my hand out. Calm. Still. The way you do with a child who's testing boundaries. Except this time, I was the child and the adults were the ones throwing the tantrum. Aunt Colleen handed it to me because refusing would look bad, and looking bad is their kryptonite. The microphone was warm and slightly sticky. My palm was damp. I could hear my own breath through the speaker. I said, and my voice sounded too loud in the backyard. People looked relieved, like, okay, she's going to say something nice, and we can move on. I am Jules, Nana's granddaughter, and I just want to correct a few things that were said. My mom took a step toward me, smiling like she was about to guide me back into the cage. Sweetheart. No, I said, still smiling, because I've learned smiling makes it harder for them to paint you as hysterical. You said I disappeared from school. That's not true. I took a semester off for health reasons, and I graduated. You said I quit jobs. That's not true either. I've been employed steadily for the last 3 years. Here's my current position, if anyone cares. I paused, looked at my dad clients, and saw a few eyebrows lift. And you implied I've been asking Nana for money. That's also not true. There were little murmurs. Confusion. Interest. The kind of interest people have when they realize there's drama, and they didn't bring popcorn. Dean stepped forward, chuckling like I was making an inappropriate joke. Jules, come on, he said. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I replied, and my voice stayed even. Because you chose to make me the punchline during Nana's party. So we're just going to be honest. My mom's smile cracked. You are being cruel, she snapped, and her eyes shone with angry tears. She always brings tears out like weapons. This is a celebration. It is, I said. So let's celebrate Nana, and let's also not lie about me to make yourselves look better. Then I pulled my phone out and did the simplest, most devastating thing. I read one message. Just one. The one where my mom said I'd try to manipulate Nana. I didn't show the whole thread. I didn't do a slideshow. I just read it word for word, calmly. The backyard went very still. Even the music felt quieter. My mom's mouth opened, and no sound came out first. Then, you're spying on us? You were talking about me, I said, to control me. Dean's face went red. That's taken out of context. What context makes it okay to call me unstable, to discredit me? I asked. My voice shook a little there, not from fear, more from the weight of saying it out loud. What context makes it okay to plan around me like I'm a problem to manage? My dad barked, enough, like he always does when the truth gets too close. But Nana, who had been sitting quietly in her chair near the cake table, suddenly stood up. Slowly but firmly. Nana doesn't stand quickly anymore. The fact that she stood at all made everyone shut up. Sit down, Graham, Nana said to my dad, her voice sharp as a ruler. My dad froze. Nana looked at my mom. And you, she said. Stop. My mom went pale. Mom. Nana lifted a hand. No, I'm tired, she said, and there was something ancient and exhausted in her tone that made my eyes sting. I'm tired of being treated like furniture while you all fight over what you think I owe you. A small gasp went through the crowd. Dean stammered, Nana, that's not. Nana looked straight at him. You were happy to change my accounts, she said, clearly, loudly enough for people to hear. And you didn't even tell me. My mom made a strangled noise. That is not what happened. Nana didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The bank told me what happened, she said. And Jules sat with me while we fixed it. Not you. My mom's face twisted, and for a second I saw it. Pure panic. Not because Nana was hurt. Because Nana was speaking. Dean tried to laugh again, desperate. Okay, this is getting dramatic. Nana's eyes flashed. You don't get to call it dramatic just because you don't like it, she snapped, and the room, yard, whatever, shifted. People started looking at my mom and Dean differently. Not like heroes. Like people who might have done something ugly. My throat tightened so hard I could barely swallow. I hadn't come to destroy them. I'd come to stop being destroyed. I handed the mic back to my aunt because my hand was shaking now and I didn't want to drop it. My mom lunged toward me, voice low and furious. You've ruined this, she hissed. No, I said quietly. You did. I just stopped covering for you. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. In a way, she didn't. The Jules she knows is the Jules who apologizes for existing. Dean moved toward me too, eyes hard. You think you've won? He sneered. You think anyone cares about your little job? You're still. Stop, Nana said again, and Dean shut his mouth like the word physically hit him. Then Nana did something I'll never forget. She walked, slowly, but with purpose, across the grass toward me, and she took my hand in front of everyone. Her hand was warm and thin and steady. This is my granddaughter, she said. And she's the only one who has spoken to me like I'm still a person. The silence after that was deep, not awkward, heavy, like the air itself was thinking. My dad looked like someone had slapped him. My mom's eyes filled, but this time the tears weren't performing. They were leaking because her control was slipping. People started moving again, but differently. A couple of relatives drifted toward Nana, checking on her. One of my dad's clients quietly excused himself. My cousin Bree appeared on my shoulder and squeezed me once, hard, like she was trying to pour strength into me. Later, after most people had left, after the cake had been cut and half-eaten in weird, tense silence, my dad cornered me near the side gate. His face was mottled with anger and humiliation, like he didn't know which emotion to lead with. "Why would you do that?" he demanded, voice low so no one could hear. "On her birthday." I looked at him and felt this strange calm settle over me again. "Why would you?" I asked back. "Why would you let them talk about me like that? Why would you let Mom call me unstable to protect herself?" He flinched at the word unstable. "Your mother is under stress," he said automatically. "And I'm not." I asked, and my voice cracked just a little. "I've been under stress for years. I've been swallowed by this family stories. You all built a version of me that made you feel better about the way you treat me." Dad's jaw worked. He looked like he wanted to deny it, then realized he couldn't. "You embarrassed us," he said finally. "You embarrassed yourselves," I said. I just refused to lie. My mom came up behind him, her face drained. "You've turned Nana against us," she whispered like I'd done witchcraft. "I didn't," I said. "You did." Nana just finally saw it clearly. My mom's lips trembled. For a split second, I saw something like regret. Then it hardened into resentment again, because remorse would require change. "You always make yourself the victim," she spat. And something in me, something I've spent years trying to explain politely, finally snapped clean into a simple sentence. "I'm not the victim," I said. "I'm a scapegoat. There's a difference." My mom stared at me like I'd spoken another language. That night, I went back to Nana's house with her because she didn't want to stay with my parents. Nana slept in her own bed, and I slept on the couch like I used to when I was a kid. The house smelled like lavender and old books. At 2 a.m., Nana padded out in her slippers, sat on the edge of the couch, and said quietly, "I'm sorry." My throat tightened. "You don't need to be sorry," I whispered. "Yes," she said, and her eyes shone in the dim light. "Ido." I saw it, but I pretended I didn't because it was easier. I thought if I kept everyone happy, everything would be fine. She paused, swallowed. "But keeping everyone happy made you lonely." I couldn't speak. Tears slid down my face silently, hot and embarrassing, and Nana patted my hand like I was little again. "You're not unstable," she said. "You're strong, and they hate it when you don't use your strength for them." The next week was fallout. Explosive, messy fallout. My mom sent a long text about betrayal. Dean posted a vague Facebook status about toxic people trying to ruin family. My aunt called and tried to mediate in that way where she mostly wanted me to apologize so things could go back to comfortable. I didn't. I kept my responses short. I kept my voice calm. I stopped performing. Nana changed her will. Not in a dramatic, everyone gets nothing way, but in a clear, protective way. She set up a small trust for her care, made sure no one could move her money without her consent, and she added Bree and me as the people who have to be informed about any account changes. Nana didn't do it as revenge. She did it like someone finally locking a door. Dean tried to come in Nana's house once, all charm again, carrying flowers like a movie villain pretending to be a good guy. Nana didn't let him in. She spoke through the screen door and said, "I love you, but you are not welcome until you can tell the truth." Dean left with his jaw tight and his bouquet looking ridiculous in his fist. My mom didn't come at all for 2 weeks. When she finally did, she stood in Nana's driveway and cried. Real crying, not staged. Nana watched from the porch and said, "Do you want to cry because you're sorry or because you got caught?" Mom froze. She didn't answer. Nana nodded once like, "Okay then," and went inside. And me? This is the part that feels weird to write because it makes me sound smug, and I'm not. I'm mostly exhausted. But I did end up being the winner, not because I destroyed them, but because their lies stopped working. My boss found out about the family drama because my aunt tried, again, to contact my workplace. This time my boss called me into his office, closed the door, and said, "Do you want us to take formal action?" I blinked at him like he'd offered me a foreign object. Formal action? Someone defending me? I said, "I just want it documented." He nodded and said, "It is." 2 months later, I got promoted. It wasn't because I was trying to prove anything to my family. It was because I was good at my job when I wasn't drowning in their noise. On the day I got the offer, I didn't call my mom. I called Nana. Nana laughed and said, "Of course you did, darling. You always did the work." The real win, though, wasn't the promotion. It was the quiet shift inside me. The moment I realized I didn't need my family to agree with my reality for it to be real. I didn't need them to say, "We were wrong," for me to stop shrinking. A few relatives reached out afterward, people who'd always been neutral, and said things like, "I didn't know," and "I'm sorry we laughed," and "You didn't deserve that." Those messages felt like small stones placed on a grave. Not fixing the past, but acknowledging it existed. Dean still thinks I'm a villain. He probably always will, because if he admits the truth, he has to face what he did. My mom swings between anger and awkward attempts at normal. She'll send me a photo of a sunset like nothing happened, then throw in a jab if I don't respond fast enough. I keep my boundaries. I keep my distance. Nana is safer now. Nana is louder now. Nana calls me her truth teller, which makes me laugh and also makes me want to cry again because I spent years being told I was too much for simply saying what was happening. Sometimes I replay that moment in the backyard. My aunt's mic, Dean's smug toast, my mom's grip on my arm, and I think about how close I was to letting it happen again. How easy it would have been to nod, smile, absorb the humiliation, and go home with that familiar shame stuck to my skin. Instead, I spoke. Nana spoke. The lie cracked open in front of witnesses. And yeah, my family will say I ruined a party. They'll say I made it about me. They'll say I exposed private stuff. But the truth is, they were perfectly happy making Nana's birthday about their control, and they were perfectly happy making me into a cautionary tale because it kept everyone else comfortable. I didn't expose their lies to be cruel. I exposed them because lies thrive in silence, and I've been silent my whole life to keep the peace. The peace was never real anyway. It was just me swallowing everything so they could keep smiling. Now I'm not swallowing it. Now Nana's safe. Now my life is mine. If that makes me the real winner, it's not because I took something from them. It's because I finally stopped letting them take me.